Thank you so much for joining us today, Mirabai. It's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a great blessing to have you with us today. Welcome once again to the Glow Heartfulness webinars.
Thank you, Purnima. I love talking with you. So this is a joy for me to do. And you chose a really wonderful subject that, you know, makes us all think and rethink our assumptions about all of this is really helpful, I think.
So, like Mirabai Bush says, the topic is womanhood and spirituality, and what works, and how can we help women to move in this journey, in their spiritual journey. So, for the participants of the Glow webinars, Mirabai Bush is no new person, but for the newcomers, I would like to say a few words about Mirabai Bush. She is the author of Working with Mindfulness. She's the co-creator of Google Search Inside Yourself program. She's the co-founder of the Center for Contemplative Mind and Society and a founding board member of the Seva Foundation. Some of her literary works include Contemplation Nation, Contemplative Practices in Higher Education, and Walking Each Other Home. We are so happy to have you here. Once again, welcome. And today's topic in the Glow webinars is about women and spirituality. Heartfulness Institute is the organizer of the Glow webinars, which is an acronym for Genuine, Loving, Outstanding Women. Heartfulness Meditation teaches a heart-based meditation. Here we are gathered this webinar, and we have people joining from 120 plus countries where the Heartfulness has made a presence. So once again, a warm welcome to all of you. And as we begin this unique and interesting topic on the Glow webinars about women and womanhood and their spiritual journey, my first question to you is, what are the unique challenges and opportunities for a woman on a spiritual path?
Thanks. You know, I probably will be speaking as if I'm speaking to all women. I realize that's how I was thinking about these questions. And so for those men of you who are listening in, just imagine that you are privileged to be in this room with an extraordinary group of women and hear what it is that we think about when we think about spirituality. And it's just wonderful to be with everyone who's here. I really gotten to enjoy imagining the big circle of us. We can't see each other, but we know we're here. Unique challenges and opportunities for a woman on a spiritual path. There's so much. And when we think about it, there are layers of challenges. And of course, it's different in different cultures, but it is probably global that there is that women experience a certain amount of negative bias in different ways, and of course, there are differences in us, you know, physically, mentally, psychologically, but the spirit within us is one. It's all the same. But how we work with waking up to that is conditioned by things in our cultures. And I spent 2 years the first time in India in 1970 to 72. So that's a while ago. And of course, you know, this still exists. But then I remember that there was a pretty strong belief that, well, they say women couldn't be enlightened. I was actually not looking for enlightenment in the sense of trying to be a saint, but I was trying to look for it in terms of waking up to the potential of who we can be as full human beings. And that was in a lot of the literature. And I think part of it was because I learned these practices inside, particularly inside monastic settings. And they were all men, you know, and all the teachers were men. And they really, I don't think they'd had a lot of experience with women waking up spiritually, you know. But of course, we didn't challenge it in a like activist way, but it was just obvious to us that of course we can wake up, of course we can know more deeply who we fully are. And so that's there in many ways in different cultures, and we just I do believe globally we're working out of it, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and we have to do it with love and kindness and compassion for the whole, so that it happens. I think also that often, even in situations where men and women are sharing more of the responsibility for families, um, that women often have more time-consuming family responsibilities, and often that can seem to keep you from um, creating the kind of dedicated space for yourself to do whatever practices you're doing, so that you can wake up, and that really can be a challenge. My experience is, and this isn't an absolute, but my experience is that women often have a stronger, bigger capacity for integrating body, mind, and spirit, including emotions and thoughts and responsibilities, that women tend to have a more integrative intelligence. It's not to say that it doesn't exist in men or that can't be cultivated more in men, but I do think that that comes more easily to us, and that is, I feel like we are given that because we also have all these aspects of life to integrate. But I do believe we have the capacity for doing that. And um, that also, we also often have multiple identities as women. You know, you can be uh, you might be a wife and a mother. You might be another person in your work life. You may have, may be somewhat different with your friends. You may be a grandmother or a granddaughter. There are just so many identities that we have. Our identity in relation to maybe whatever arts we're involved in. So the advantage of that is that we're much less likely to get fixed on a single identity, being identified with. You know, we've all, certainly in this country and particularly in the universities, we've all worked a lot on identity and, you know, recognizing, owning, celebrating our particular identities. And now we can trace it genetically and all of that. And that's been really good work. It's been really important in this country where we struggle with a lot of as you know, a lot of racism. Most popular book on racism in this country right now is called Caste. And so the work on identity has been really important for women. But it's also, spiritually, we need to cultivate the ability to hold essentially two conflicting ideas in the mind at the same time. We are this, you know, certain like age, gender, race, it's all of it. And at the same time, to know that we are all of those and yet not. We are more than that. They are not limiting, they're identifying, but they're not all that we are. And I think that because as women, we're often like moving in and out of all those different identities, that it's easier for us to recognize that, oh yeah, there is a constant that is not any of that. And that is, that's the spirit, or that's loving awareness. That's who we are. So yeah, and I think the important thing at the center of all of those things that we're juggling all the time is to find your way to return home to center, you find your practice, heartfulness being such a great practice, but to remember to return to the love at the center of it all, so that you're not getting caught in all these different ways. And because as women, we have lots of challenges. And before we go on, the other thing I really want to say is spend time with other women, other women who you have a resonance with, who they might not be doing the same exact practice you're doing, or their understanding of it may be somewhat different. They may be different in age or whatever. But it's so important, because in these conversations, we get to surface what's just kind of there beneath awareness, and that kind of support allows you to open up to things that you may not be able to see otherwise. I think it's been one of the most important spiritual practices in my life. I had a group of women with whom we all together, with men, but started Seva Foundation, which you mentioned. And we started Seva, which is an international public health organization. We started it because after discovering our spirituality in India and Nepal in those years, we wanted to give back to the culture, not into the countries and the people, not just the teachers who we honored, and but also to that we were allowed to live there for a couple of years and integrate what we were learning, so that when we returned to the West, we were able to then integrate it into a larger life. So there were about 10 of us women, and we were on the board for, I think, 20 years together. Then we went off the board to make space for younger people, and we missed each other. So we started having a retreat once a year where we would get together, and then we would all share what was going on in our lives and what was important to us and how we were growing and what we were struggling with, what our teachers are saying. And that's been going on for over 20 years now. And it's so important. We don't do anything special. We just share with each other. And it's been really quite wonderful. So, I mean, I have other women friends also, but that just stands out as one of the things that's really helped me grow over time. And so I encourage you to do it. A number of these women were in India and Bangladesh they worked on the end of the smallpox, the campaign for the end of smallpox. That's Seva kind of came out of that. And they either were epidemiologists or married to them, and so know a lot about, those folks who worked on that campaign. It was the first infectious disease to be eliminated from the planet. Something like this was going to happen, but it's hard. It was obviously hard for all of us around the world to pay enough attention to it. But we've had really good conversations, both about public health aspects of that, but also the spiritual aspects of how you grow when you're confronted with something so frightening. And
thank you so much, Mirabai. So, you partially answered my next question also, but nevertheless, I'm going to ask that if you have anything more to add, it would be wonderful. So you spoke about how women have these different identities, and they always look at wonderful, intelligent ways to integrate them all, and they balance all their roles. So my next question was actually how to prioritize and balance the various roles that women have throughout their life. Like, for example, there would be this wonderful instance when, just today, I told you that I have to come here a little bit later for this webinar because I'm stuck in the kitchen. And you were so accommodative of that. I just thought that here we are discussing this topic about womanhood and spirituality, and it's a woman who has understood me and who's supporting me in my this role. Generally, how do you think it's how do you
That's
think
a
we
great
can?
question. Well, first of all, you didn't say stuck in the kitchen when you told me. You said, I will be preparing a meal for my family. So, but now you can say stuck in the kitchen. I love that. Um, yeah, we we all have all of that, and it changes, of course, through life. I we're always balancing. It's important to, once again, it's the same. I had my first Buddhist teacher. He always had the same answer for everything. He'd say, well, he called his practice, this is Goenka, he's a Burmese teacher.
Okay.
He was a practice called where you took your awareness through the different parts of your body, not trying to change, not trying to relax it like in a shavasana, but just noticing what was happening everywhere. So, and he called it sweeping. And so everything we'd ask him these really complicated questions, he'd say, keep on sweeping. So, so, I mean, really, it comes back to like deep listening and, staying in your heart, in your center, and listening, because it not only changes at different stages of life, it changes moment to moment, and so yeah, I was one time, I ran a business when I first came back from India called Illuminations, and and we built it on principles of right livelihood. I wanted to see how being in the workplace every day would how that really could be karma yoga, how I could bring the Gita to life in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So uh, and it was I learned so much from that, because I believe before I started, but certainly through the years of working on it, that everything we do can be practice if we have the right intention. So but I remember that one time I was asked to write something about what I learned from trying to run a business of right livelihood. And one of the things I said was, get confused about whether to attend a meeting at the bank or your child's birthday party or something like that. And the editors kept trying to change it to don't get confused about whether. No, I said, no, get confused. Ask yourself, like, which is in this moment, what is more important? And you have to you have all these sometimes conflicting sets of values, but you have to go as deep as you can and ask yourself that, is it more important to, to do my podcast or cook a good dinner, I mean, and usually what happens is, it doesn't have to be one or the other. There are usually ways, like what happened to us, where it moves around. Uh, but it does require through life, and I do think more for women than for men, it does require really listening. I had just one child, and when he was a baby and then growing up, there was always this juggling with work and parenting and being a wife and all the other things. And then later, I remember when he went off to college, I remember this incredible sense of spaciousness. It was like, oh my God, it's like, wow, what do I do with this? And then sorting out what are the important things there, how much time to spend on your practice, and 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 how much time to spend on your livelihood and your all of that, your friendships, all of that. uh you know the answers at the spiritual level. You know the answers, you know what matters to you. You may not know the implications of what is going to happen in the future depending on those decisions, but you want to make those decisions from the deepest place that you can, and to keep asking. You're not a single being. There's a core, but I mean, you're changing every moment. And so, I mean, when I retired from directing the Center for Contemplative Mind, I had to, and I was 70. And so I asked myself, what is, what am I being asked to do at this time in my life? I didn't want to any longer do the sort of day-to-day, like managing, running, busy stuff that was great when I did. I loved doing it, but it felt like, it's time for different. In India, in Hinduism, I learned about the ashramas, and which is really, I think the sanest description of how you should spend that last stage of life, really, really attending to your spiritual self. But of course, you do it all through life, but then at that time you do it in a slightly different way because you're preparing for that transition.
Yeah. Thank you. I was really blown away by how simple you made it seem. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So my next question was, how do we find the exact balance between exuding confidence and reaching contentment? In the same context, I would like to remember this quote between King Francis of France and his younger brother Charles. I binge watched this Reen. So in this, it's about Mary, Queen of Scots, and her husband Francis tells his younger brother Charles asked him, "But you always seem so confident." And Francis tells him, "Remember, being confident is a king's performance. But I thought confidence was your core quality." And as women, how do we find this balance between exuding that confidence and having reached a state of content disposition, of just being just myself?
Yeah.
Because like confidence speaks about so many things. Being confident means uh, how this person looks at you, and he looks at you as a very confident person, and then your clout increases. And being a woman, there is all the more need or necessity to have this amount of clout quotient to get your work done, to get your things done, to move forward in life, and so on. I would
Yeah.
probably edit this out, but this is really
Yeah.
so how does it work, and how do you actually be? Do you go back to being your original base self, or do you have to acquire this performance, like King Francis said?
Yeah. It's a really good question. It's a really good question for women. Um, and I have you experienced that in your life? Have you been in situations where you need to project that
Yes.
confidence, yeah,
Yes.
in order to be effective and get things done?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And a lot of people have also asked this question when your webinar is being publicized. A lot of
Yeah.
women have this question.
It goes to the core of the whole theme. um, I don't know if I'll answer it directly, but I would say my experience of confidence growing in myself. I'll back up and say, I'm going to talk about real confidence. Okay. Way in which you can trust yourself to be in whatever situation you're in, knowing, of course, knowing that you might make mistakes, or but never. Confidence doesn't mean that you're going to perform perfectly in every situation, but a kind of a radical self-confidence in which you trust yourself to do the best thing you can in that situation. And part of that might be, you know, acting in a way so that people in that situation recognize you, respect you for the role you're playing at that time or whatever. But it was when I first learned to meditate, I realized I'd been in graduate school from working for my PhD before that, which is a very it's it was so always a struggle, and I never felt like I've read enough books, I'm smart enough, I thought enough about this, you know, I understand the new criticism, you know. But when I first began to practice deeply, I felt a kind of joy because I felt like I knew something, really. I wasn't faking it in any way. I wasn't inadequate. I had learned the place in myself that is always adequate. It's, you know, it's there, it's who you are. And I also realized that I could know it fully. And so that's a little abstract, but after that, I just felt more kind of at home on the planet. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I knew who I was, even though, of course, we keep changing, but that I had this capacity for being present with whatever was happening. And that gave me a kind of confidence that allowed me to take a lot of risks, enter into situations where I wasn't really all that prepared, but that I learned a lot from. So I think that when you can, in as much as you can get in touch with that, of course it wavers, you know, but in as much as you can, then you don't have to project anything and confidence. You can be honest and humble and powerful at the same time, because
Wow.
other people will trust you. And I remember when we first started the Center for Contemplative Mind, our goal was to bring these introduce these practices into mainstream secular organizations, and nobody was doing that in this country then. This started in '95. And so we would go into, you know, work with a group of lawyers or scientists or educators. And in the beginning we said, you know, we don't really have any idea how to do this. No one's done this. We don't know how to do it, and we don't know what's going to happen. And we may have to change things as we go along. And we were a little too open about, and so people are so used to, you know, learning things from authorities that they was like, what? I don't know if I want to be part of this, you know. So then we had to start, you know, emphasizing, we really know about this, but we, you know, there may be some adjustments that will have to be made as the process goes on. So, you know, you still find yourself in circumstances where you know that there's a lot still that you need to learn in order to, you know, really be an authority on that. But that doesn't mean that you don't have confidence that you will be there to learn what needs to be learned. Contentment, I think, comes from knowing that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in that moment, you know, at that time of life, and that it's like accepting what's here in the moment. It's the basic principles of practice. You honestly see what's there in the moment, who you are and what the environment and circumstances are. And then you work on neither on giving up attachment to the fruits. Like I have a, you know, I'm working toward a goal, but if it comes out a different way, you know, I'll be there with that, and then we'll move from there. So not being attached to outcomes, seeing what's there, not being attached, doing it wholeheartedly as best you can. This is this moment. This is what I'm given, and I'm here for it. I think that's where contentment really comes from. You know, you're not wanting anything, even if you're working toward a goal. You're not wanting, you're not rejecting, you're just here in this moment, doing what needs to be done. Then you feel really good.
Thank you so much. There were two beautiful things you said in that conversation. You said about not being attached to the fruits or the results of the actual process. And you said how it's possible to be humble and powerful and joyful at the same time. That was really a very powerful statement, and I'm going to keep that with me all the time. Thank you so much.
Good.
So, you know,
I think you do keep that with you all the time.
so my next question is, do you think women are more emotional and sensitive, and how can it affect their spiritual progress? On one side, it can aid the spiritual journey. On another side, could it also, create stumbling blocks on the way? So I was just wondering about these qualities, about being emotional and sensitive
Mm.
with regards to the spiritual journey.
Well, it seems to be true that women are more intuitive, sensitive, emotional. Of course, some men are very much that way. Some women are not. But I think, well, emotions, the important thing is to be aware of emotions as they arise. They, they arise as sensations in our body and thoughts in our minds. And whatever arises, I mean, I would say, and you would, that, that comes from past karma, what's arising in the moment. How we react is in this moment, is our decision in this moment. And so the most important thing about emotions is being able to see them as they arise, and then to act in a non-harming way, with the destructive emotions like anger and hatred and rage and so on. I've thought a lot about compassion and self-compassion, and there, empathy is the ability to feel the emotional state of another person, whether it's their joy or delight or happiness, or suffering of different kinds. And compassion is the focusing on the suffering of others. And within compassion, unlike just empathy, is the desire to relieve the suffering that you see in another person. And that's essential to the future of humanity, for example. And so honoring that capacity for feeling the suffering of others, and then cultivating, which you can do through practices, and heartfulness is like so about this, cultivating the capacity for responding with the desire to relieve that suffering. I think that that's some of our most important work to do. And I think that if we find that we are sensitive, emotional. It's cultivating the awareness to see it, hold it, and then use it in a way that is helpful for ourselves, compassion for ourselves, of course, and for others. And I mean, finally, love is at the heart of it. And in as much as we can let go of destructive emotions so that there's space for it, love to flourish, that will take care of a lot of problems.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful what you spoke about. Love is at the heart of all of these emotions, all of these feelings. How can women be more responsible for shaping more advanced spiritual human race or humanity?
Yeah, well, yes. My teacher, when I asked him that question, essentially,
Oh,
or,
did you?
yeah, what should I do with my life and what should we do with our lives in order to make the world a better place? He said, love everyone, everyone, serve everyone, and always tell the truth. So at first it was like, that's kind of simple direction, love everyone, serve everyone, but of course it's not. And then I spent the next 50 years trying to, trying it out, seeing what he meant. And at different stages of my life, it meant different things, and still. But, the world can be very complex, and responses to all these, issues and questions can be very complicated. But I do believe when it comes down to it, it really is about loving everyone and all that that means, all that that means about waking up yourself so that you can love, and recognizing how we are all interconnected. And once we realize that, we know that just as we don't want to suffer, you don't want to suffer, no one wants to. What can we do to help each other wake up, be happier, and yeah, then serving without attachment, just serving because we know that we're all part of a, a huge consciousness, loving awareness. And that will keep you busy. The other is always stay open to learning more. I've been amazed through life, because we go through like a model of education, you learn certain things and then and then you act, but it turns out it's true about certain technical skills, but that real learning goes on and on and on, and it's you're different things to learn at different stages. But just if we just think of our work as just like staying open to what we can learn in this moment, and keeping our hearts open so that we learn it in a loving, compassionate way, then we're good.
Thank you so much. Love everyone, serve everyone, and always tell the truth. That's easy and also
Yeah, it's a life's work.
it's a lifetime of doing, and thank you, and I try to do it. So finally, we spoke a little bit about challenges, solutions on the spiritual journey, on the spiritual struggles. But I want to ask this final question about transcending this aspect of spiritual well-being to moving towards spiritual flourishing.
My answers are the same, but I guess find way to take joy in this journey. That so much of the time it's like tapasya, you know, it seems like it's really, difficult, and we're working on, we're practicing, but actually, that's all in the relative plane, and that really being with as much as we can, remembering the ways in which we all are part of a great loving heart. That, and just taking joy from that, getting beyond the idea of that, to just like being here, being, and just grateful for, for simply being here in this precious human birth. And I'm right now looking out the window at a tree, and here, all in the winter, all the leaves leave the tree, and you see all these like really fine, tiny branches coming off this great giant tree. Just I sit here at this desk hours at a time, and often never just look up and say, wow, that's really beautiful. That, I think, is how it leads us into flourishing, that kind of joy and appreciation and gratitude. I wanted to show you, I don't know, do you know who Ananda Mai Ma was? She was a saint in northern India, and she was alive when I was there. And and she was just an extraordinarily loving person. So you don't need to know anything about her, but I just wanted to show you, I had these two pictures that were on my puja that just looking at her face is just such a joy. And here's one from when she was younger. I find that, at times when I ask the questions about being a woman and, flourishing, and, I just sometimes I look at these pictures of her and all this happened to me with my guru also. It wasn't that he answered the questions, it was that the questions fell away. They weren't relevant anymore in the presence of the big answer, just presence and love. Yeah.
All through this conversation, we have spoken about love, joy, and gratitude. And this has been the common thread of response from you. And I'm just so happy to be in your presence. And I'm sure all the participants are too. Thank you so much. With this note, can we have an experiential session of relaxation and meditation to conclude the webinar?
Oh, sure.
For the first timers who are joining me here today in the Heartfulness relaxation and meditation, just follow my voice, and I will take you through some commands to relax your body. And towards the end of it, we'll be meditating for a few minutes on the presence of light, love, and joy in our hearts. And the whole thing would take probably 10 to 15 minutes. Just stay with me, and this experience is what matters. So sit comfortably and close your eyes. Let's begin from the toes. Relax your toes. Relax your feet. Feel an energy rising from Mother Earth through your feet. And this energy flows up through your legs, relaxing your calf muscles, your knees, your thighs. Both your legs are completely relaxed, and this energy moves up, relaxing your hips. And this energy moves up, relaxing your stomach, your lower back, and gently moving up to your upper back. Your back is completely gently relaxed. Slowly bring your attention to your chest area, relaxing your chest and feeling this energy moving through your chest and rising up, relaxing your shoulders, both your arms, flowing through your arms, your elbows, your wrist, palm, fingers, fingertips, and it's simply oozing out of your fingertips. And you observe that your arms are completely relaxed. Feel this energy rising up through your neck. Any tension in your neck is melting away, slipping away. The muscles in your neck are completely relaxed. Slowly feel this energy relaxing your facial muscles, your jaws, cheeks, ears, nose, eyes, forehead, till the tip of your head. All your muscles are completely relaxed. Slowly bring your attention to your heart. There is this presence of love in your heart. There is the source of light in your heart. Let's meditate on the source of light in your heart for a few minutes. If your mind gets distracted towards other thoughts, gently ignore them and bring your attention back to the source of light in your heart. And this light is pulling you deep inwards, pulling you deep within. And you meditate deeply on this source of light for a few minutes. Let's meditate together. Please open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you so much for joining us in this meditation experience. Thanks to all the participants who experienced heartfulness meditation today. And if you would like to continue your meditation journey with heartfulness, please log into heartfulness.org. There are many resources there. And towards the end of this webinar, you would also be guided with other resources like the free masterclass, the Udemy course by Daji, the Heartfulness magazine, and so on. So Mirabai Bush, thank you so much for this beautiful webinar, for this beautiful conversation we had with you. I'm really so grateful.
I loved being with you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you too. So do you have any closing thoughts, closing suggestions?
Well, for you, I know it's night now. So go to sleep with joy in your heart. And may you and may everyone here flourish in your love and your care for others.
Thank you so much.